I will try to describe my presentation in English language, but my English language is very bad. My colleague will help me a little. Now I concentrate in Poland not only on one question: how to govern us after war, how to govern after revolution, how to govern after Maidan. Because in Europe, in Sweden, in Germany, we have a stable situation. It's not a problem to choose somebody who will be the premier minister. It's not a problem. They have also civil service, and civil service know how to govern, how to solve the different problems. That's why I think that the governing after revolution, after Maidan, it's art. Absolutely art. It's very difficult to describe what is, where is those main question, this position, who could be the prime minister, who could be the minister in different sphere of.
Yeah, it doesn't work for some.
The first one, who are we? Solidarity movement. What it means, solidarity movement? The first one, of course, our solidarity organization, with Lech Wałęsa like our chairman. But not only. This is our, I could say, peasant party. This is agriculture, individual agriculture. Farmers. It was in Poland very important sphere because normally in our Communist Party those people was organized in commune, but not in Poland. We have those individuals. They are very strong people. Ready to fight, very, very strongly. The second organization, it's a student organization, NZS, Independent Students Organization. In many universities it was more than 50% students. It was also very strong organization. Those young people also are ready to fight very, very strongly. And also indywidualne rzemiosło, handcraft. It's also Polish specific, but for us, those people, those managers were very important because they understand in natural way what is it free economy. That's all. Summary, it was more than 10 million members. But sociologists make a research how many of them actively do something. How many from this 10 million is active? It appeared that more than 1 million people. For us, it was also a surprise because what they do. We have programs, our independent trade unions, but it's not explained what they did do. What's appeared? In Solidarity, we have the workers from all institutions. Normally in industry, it's normal, but the people, the professors from universities, yes. The teachers from schools, yes. Nurseries and doctors, yes. All sphere was covered by our organization. Then those people in that all different sphere, started to organize the teams, which started to form, to project the reforms. The reforms in health sphere, in science, in school, all. We didn't touch officially only two spheres. Secret service, officially. How we will reform this sphere, because it was 22,000 officers with guns. Well, they were determined to defend the system. Were very strong. And they killed. We lost about 100 people during martial law. It was not very much. Okay, it was. That's why it was for us a little easier to sit and talk in a round table. We also didn't touch the army. Army because at that time we had only not only Polish division but Soviet division in Poland. It was nearly 500,000 soldiers, and also around the Poland. Yeah, it was difficult think what to do with such power. But all different sphere was covered by our activists who create the programs. Okay, the first one, our candidates to be prime minister should be know that Solidarity movement has such a lot of, amount of very active people that we have a lot of teams with leaders, with program how to and to what to reform. Okay. When we started to think who should sit and talk in round table, we point that those people, a majority of them, it will be those leaders of those teams, and not only, it will be also the leader, strikers leader in our country, and the leaders of different environments, artists, yes, of course, literature, yes, of course, because in our communist country, intellectuals was our natural political leaders. Yeah, they were independent. They sign, they speak, they have speeches, they write a book. That's why for Solidarity movement they were important, because they are our head.
Listen, this is the previous one. It was a round table, real office of
Speaker.
It was when they talked with Solidarity with the government, the real round table.
The actual piece of furniture was an actual round table, which still exists, by the way.
But what is it now in Poland? Where is now this problem linked with round table? In Poland now, all people think, and politicians think, that some important agreement was linked with the political reforms. Same Senate, High Chamber, Low Chamber, President, relationship between President and the Prime Minister. Okay, it's true. Yes, it was very important elements. But nobody remember that we talk about different sphere links with our economic and social life. in a roundtable talk, we how to say, ustaliliśmy, we agreed. More than 500 strict agreements, small strict agreements, linked with different spheres of our life. But what was important as a main philosophy of those agreements, that we speak and we form the task not for government, but for us, for citizens. What we as citizens are going to do. Then, for example, we talk, the talk, roundtable talk was, in course, but teachers started organize our social schools, middle schools, not as a state school, but in completely different sphere. Yes, it was linked with our agreement from 1980s. Those agreements established one main element, philosophy. We win this strike, big strike in 1980, but we win the task for us also. We went to organize free trade unions. Yes, but those tasks, it's not for government, not for parliament, but for us. And we keep this philosophy all our way. So here you can read those main sphere when our people were active, young, health, ecological problems. No, some very important territorial self-governance. The second question was, are we ready to take a power or not? My answer is yes, absolutely. We were ready very perfectly. We were prepared very perfectly. This is a problem in Poland because many our leaders, many our intellectuals spoke that no, we were not ready. For example, Adam Michnik speak that unfortunately we were not ready to take a power. I didn't agree with him because in that moment, at that moment, we should answer on the question what it means to be ready. Who is ready to be prime minister? We have three main men. As you see, no one. At that moment, we have any women, but such women who are ready also to be prime minister, we have absolutely fantastic, strong women were ready because they understand solidarity movement. They understand, they know and understand our internal situation. The first man, Tadeusz Mazowiecki. Finally, he stay our first prime minister. Who is Tadeusz Mazowiecki? He is a personalist. From philosophical point of view, he is personalist, but he is very elitarian man. He trusts only very small group near to him. Their knowledge about solidarity, about those people who were organized in their teams, who had the programs, their knowledge was very, very small. It's appeared that is our very big internal problem. Because normally the citizens think that, okay, communist power collapse, but at that moment all will be different. All at one day, and all will be okay. It's difficult to manage, but we should try. Who is this man? Bronisław Geremek. Bronisław Geremek and Jacek Kuron was our Solidarity leader. They understand the Solidarity movement very deeply, very deeply. They know that in the Solidarity movement we have thousands active people, that we have those teams, and those teams have a program. That's why those two guys said me that when I asked him what it means to govern as our wing, what it means that solidarity will govern. Those two guys said me, you understand, it means that we should govern by movement. What it means govern by movement? You look for those people who has a program. You look for those people who want to govern, and you take them the proposition. You take them the position. Such people, you made a minister, you made a director. That's all. But between those people, it's also a little differentiation, because Jacek Kuron was our main head. Bronisław Geremek was a rather second, but Mr. Geremek was prepared, how to say, from logistic point of view, he was prepared much times better. Where is those art out together? He said me, for example, I asked him, if you will, if you will nominate to be premier, what you will do? He said, you understand, it will be very good if those nominations will be will be in the morning. Because about 2 o'clock I will present our cabinet. Okay, you are ready? Of course. Of course. We know our leaders, we know these people, of course, it's not a problem. But if I will nominate afternoon, it's a problem, because I will present cabinet tomorrow morning. Where is problem? Too long. Too long. We had 10 years to prepare to govern. Tadeusz Mazowiecki organized your cabinet 6 weeks. All people were in nervous. What happened? What happened? How so long? We have also one guy else, Mirosław Bielski, very important economist, but he was the candidate of Jarosław Kaczyński. Those people who observe Polish situation, they know who is Jarosław Kaczyński. He was his candidate. What is important in oh, how to say, in the philosophy of governing in Jelski philosophy. He prepared the program of privatization. It was interesting because he asked himself, where we will have the we will have the resistance in secret police, in police, in army, in Communist Party apparatus. What to do with those people? What to do with those officers? How to neutralize them? And his idea was we take them and we direction them to the we made them managers in our factories. To rad nadzorczych, to the
management boards.
Be promoted.
Those people who observe our internal situation, they know that we have a big tension links with the with judiciary part. But in our solidarity movement, in 1980, which we stopped at 28 November, our activists in court and prosecutor started organize this internal day movement who started to prepare the reform in that sphere. The reform in that sphere is absolutely most important because after revolution we will observe the explosion of problems and judiciary power should solve, should help us to solve this problem. As you see, they started very, very early. All main jurists, jurisprudencia in Poland, all those main people was in that organization, the internal organization. And they also formed for us the part of our program which we established in our first convention, Solidarity Convention in 1981. They work, their programs, their projects został ukryty, zachował się.
Concealed somewhere, hidden.
Yes, it was hidden in prosecution. That's why Secret Service don't destroy them, because different program was completely destroyed, was fired. The material was fired, but that one we have incomplete. This is their how to say, strona internetowa, website. Kazimierz Barczyk, he was a judge, and he was the main manager in that program. He was the head of this program. Normally, this guy should be the Minister of Justice. It's absolutely clear for me, absolutely clear for me. He should be minister also because he has temperament. He was manager, not only judge, but manager. Unfortunately, okay. We see this mentioned in the concrete program, and we see different name of those main people who work in the state. Here we see Wałęsowska. He was our ombudsman, first ombudsman. He was also the member of this team. But paradox is that she was nominated by Jaruzelski. By Jaruzelski. But we agree with this decision because she was she was in our movement. She was the head of 1 hour program. If you nominated our women, okay, we agree. Eva Wentowska is also my candidate to be prime minister, president, what she went. Here we see the different sphere of this program, the law of work, the media, civil law, different, many different elements. It's also on the information that this material was presented in Parliament. Who was the member of in that team? I also was the member in that team, but of course I am not a lawyer. What was my role? Not only me, it was 4 or 5 members of those leaders, Solidarity movement. We represent the political power. It was, our role was to take them the power to realize their program in the future. We were also those political support for them. It was important because many programs which I read in different countries, those programs haven't those political support. It was it was the program established by activists, but they haven't those political support. And suddenly, well, this program disappeared, the team disappeared. Okay. For March, they started officially to work after roundtable talk, during roundtable talk. It was clear that those guys should be Premier Minister. Adam Przembosz was head of team which prepared the reform of court, only court. So till now he is very important man for us. Unfortunately, those first non-communist government was created as a coalition. And this partner of those coalitions from ZSL, it was no element of communist system, but not communist party. Those partners said that Minister of Justice should be Aleksander Będkowski. Only. Without him, they didn't agree on the coalition. Unfortunately, Alexander Będkowski was not our man. What he know about these programs? Nothing, absolutely nothing. And suddenly, all those programs, all those teams started to destroy. And all those big work suddenly collapsed. Okay. Very different sphere, it's economy. We have our people in all factories, but those system is very centralized. The economic reform will be very, very strong and very unfriendly for the people, for workers. It's absolutely clear for us. But we also had a team who works, three teams, who work during Solidarity movement, and not only how to reform those post-Soviet, those communist economy. Balcerowicz was the head of one of those teams in Warsaw. We had also the team in Krakow and in Gdańsk. Those three centers represent liberal economy, absolutely liberal economy. But Balcerowicz, we know him. He was not a member of Solidarity member, never. But for us, he was a very important man, and he, how to say, we invite him to the Solidarity movement as one of those heads of reform in that sphere. Those main task for them was to work with our activists in factories, which started to on the factory level, started to think how to reform this factory, how to how to reform this factory on the factory level, how to change the management and that's all. And Balcerowicz was our main, philosopher, main theoretical economist, which started to think about it. Because normally, those economies was very centralized. And how to decentralize the system, it was very, very difficult, huge task. Here I show that this reform on the factory level will be for the Solidarity movement one of the most important. But Balcerowicz also had a good experience, and he watched on the reform of Ludwig Erhard. Balcerowicz was nominated as a Minister of Finance, and they have in your hand all instruments to reform. But he was macroeconomist. It was the school of macroeconomics. It appeared that it have consequences, because he established those general instruments and said all what will happen in the level of factories, it's not interested for me. I will keep only macroeconomic factors. But we had a different guy, Witold Trzeciakowski, also the economist, also with good experience and the links with the different economists in the US, but he was microeconomist. Micro. microeconomics. It was very important because in that school we analyzed the situation of factories and to create the macroeconomic instruments to help them in reform. Completely different approach. He was a candidate to be Minister of Finance, to be Minister of this reform, but in German team. In German. We changed the man, and suddenly the different people are completely different. Okay, the privatization, the reprivatization, it was in our country the biggest problem, fundamental problem. How to do it? In our factories, we have teams who prepare those individual roads to reform. But this guy, director Ursus, our factory when I worked, Zbigniew Bujak, he was director, he was engineer. He was, we direction him to the Senate, I remember, and he prepared the act how to reprivatize the aptex, because aptex will also stay. Pharmacies. It was the process which go perfectly, without any problems, social, specific, without any problems. How it was possible? Because in different spheres we have a lot of conflicts, but here no. What is important in that person? He also perfectly understands what is it social process, and he understands as an engineer that reprivatization in that sphere it's also process, and he prepared the act according with their mentality. You understand? Those act was 15 paragraphs only, and all was doing better. I present this example. The head, the chief of civil servant, Great Britain civil servant, for the head of the Great Britain civil servant, and he said me, it's normal, absolutely. Because in the civil service, in the managing of those social sphere, the best people are the techniques and engineers. Techniques and engineers.
Technicians.
Because it's a kind of mentality. I have a task, I have material, I have a tools, and it's a process. And the humanistic, they only sit and speak. They would be fantastic advocatus diaboli. Absolutely. They fantastically criticize, but no. It's it's also shown this problem. During martial law, we have a lot of problems how to win with our general, with those tanks, and those guys from Lublin sent us the letter that he went to meet with me because he went to present their idea to organize
Stock exchange.
Stock exchange. Gentlemen, martial law. General, you send me that you went to organize the stock exchange. What's the thing about? Okay. When we win, you give you the task and you will organize the stock exchange. He organized team. All martial law, he prepared this program, how to organize stock exchange. And not only, because we will reform all economy, then stock exchange will have it will be main instrument of those reform. And those philosophy was very deep, you understand. But he organized those teams after round table talk. When Balcerowicz stayed Minister of Finance, he sent the proposition. Balcerowicz accept, give him instruments, and those guys organized Polish stock exchange. One of the best institutions of our market economy. Here we have different. For me, for Solidarity movement, very, very important person. As you said, in our factory, we have teams which prepare the reform on this factory level. But if we have a big factory, it's not przedsiębiorstwo, big enterprise. We had inside very strange elements. For example, the kind of firm which construction. Why? Not to make the reform, renovation, and so on. But not only. For example, different part concentrate on the transport. But what is the sense to have inside of enterprises the part which realize the transport? It could be separate field. And our team prepared the program how to separate this different part of him and create them as a independent factories, independent enterprises. It was his program, this guy. And what was important, that the subject in that new firm, it was workers. The workers were ownership. And the workers decided who will be manager and how to reconstruct those things. It's also the process which we realize without problem, without protest, without strike. You understand? Many Polish enterprises now started as an effect of their politicians. Because he was also the man who understands those internal situations. He knows that he has teams in this factory who are ready to know and ready to do it. One of the most important questions, Jerzy Moskwa, his name is not good. Yes. Sometimes I go to my secretary, and many people stay, and I said, link me with Moscow. let people, what? It's important, you have a link with Moscow? No, it was only document. He was a head of team who, in solidarity, prepared the reform of health service. It was big work because doctors, nurses organized in hospital, discuss how to make the reform, choose the representative who made, organize the Congress on the one level higher. They also discuss on those regional level and choose the representative on the all state level. And those discuss was all our legal time. Those discuss was very intense. Was very, very intense. Finally, they have program. I consult this program 4 years ago in the US. I consult this program with the men who are members of Obamacare team. And he said, big, your program is much times better than Obamacare. Because Obamacare will not work. But this program should work. It's fantastic. But what happened? Also, this history is linked with our problem with coalition. Because the minister, because the minister of health service was from also ZSL, this Communist Party. Those ministers also they know nothing about those solidarity movement, about those programs, about Moscow, and those big team who were in that sphere. Finally, I went to present also different sphere where teachers were very, very intensively how to reform the school, the system of school. Viktor Kulewski was the chief of those program, and Anna Radziwiłł was second person, main person, which organized in solidarity movement of discuss and teams who prepare those reforms. What happened? Here, the situation is a little different. Because normally, Viktor Kulewski or Anna Radziwiłł should be those first minister of in that sphere. But those first minister was Henryk Samsonowicz. Henryk Samsonowicz was a professor. And after half year, I asked Mr. Kulewski and Radziwiłł, what happened? You do nothing. You have a fantastic program. And what happened? And Victor said me, you understand, collegium of our minister, collegium in our ministry, discussed, organized
academic discussions.
This discussion. We didn't discuss about this. It's appeared that Henryk Samsonowicz is absolutely undecision man. Absolutely undecision minister. Our advisor, but advisor. The character, the mentality It's a key question when you when you choose the man who could be, who is ready to realize that project. Teresa Bogucka, she was not mine, candidates to be Minister of Culture. Because those activity in culture sphere during martial law, not only in Solidarity movement of course, but during martial law, was very rich, was very interesting. It was a model how to govern, how to be Minister of Finance in normal country. Absolutely. Fantastic woman. She also could be the Prime Minister, President, or what she will. Unfortunately, Tadeusz Mazowiecki take women from his team. But those women also didn't know what is the situation in our movement. How many people were in that sphere, in different regions. She was, she knows nothing about it. And suddenly all those, how to say, this program absolutely destroyed. On the end, our main reform, because the reform of local government, it's one of the best reforms in Poland. Okay. When we started to organize Solidarity movement, it was the first week in our region, for example. Professor Regulski asked me about, about meeting, and said, Mr. Zbigniew, I have a proposition. When Solidarity win, we should make the reform of local power. Without that, we don't imagine the success. It's very, very important level. I said, okay, what do you need to realize this program? Telephone, office, a little money. Okay. Okay, and he organized the team, and they started to prepare this reform. During martial law, they also continued their work, the programs. After martial law, after roundtable law, I decided that Professor Regulski will be the member of Senate, high chamber. He win this election. He stayed senator, and as a senator, they prepare the act, and Premier Minister Mazowiecki established him the minister in the Ministry of Local Government, established him as a head of those reform, and they perfectly realized their program, which they started with him on the start in the first day of Solidarity, when we started to organize in Solidarity. It's a full success. Okay, summary. I observed many revolutions. In Ukraine, individually, I was on the Maidan during Orange Revolution, during Euromaidan. I observed the Rose Revolution in Georgia. we also observed the revolution in South Africa, Tunisia, Egypt. We work with activists from Myanmar, and I see that in all that place, the activists create the postulates what the government should do. Eventually, we haven't this president. We have to fire this president. But they didn't know their own program. This is my answer for him. What you establish on this Maidan? Show me your program. Show me your agreement, internal agreement between you. What are you going to do? How are you going to govern when you fired this president? This is the main differences between those Polish revolution and those different. We have only one example when those revolutionaries skorzystali, benefited that knowledge. Tunisia. After this revolution, our ambassador, he said about himself that he's from Bronisław Geremek schools. Bronisław Geremek was a main head for him. And he phoned to Gdańsk went to talk with Lech Wałęsa and asked him, Mr. President, Mr. Lech Wałęsa came here to Tunisia. No, Lech Wałęsa asked, okay, but what I should speak about in Tunisia? You should speak how you talk with General Jaruzelski, how you, jak się porozumiałeś, how you communicate with General Jaruzelski, how you communicate, and finally you organize roundtable talk. Okay, Lech Wałęsa visited Tunisia 2 times, and after a few months, when we were observer in the election, in all Tunisia, also in small villages, very primitive villages, the people, when we said that we are from Poland, we are from Solidarity, the people said, ah, yes, I know. We remember Lech Wałęsa. Interview with Lech Wałęsa. What Lech Wałęsa speak about? About agreement, about round table. And after that, Tunisia, it's only one country, when finished their revolution as a agreement, social agreement, for subject create agreement. But they have a problem with reform in their country. My problem is that when we strictly observe their problem, we see what kind of knowledge, what kind of skills they have. Europe have experience. Europe have skills. Yes. Where is those European experience? We should understand that European country, for example, Germany, after Second World War, they also transform their system from hyper-totalitarian to liberal democracy. And then it's absolutely fantastic road. Understand how they happened. That is now the sphere of my searches, the sphere of my essays. because those knowledge is needed for those countries after revolution, after Maidan, after after what? Maidan. Okay, thank you very much.